Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Paper Rose Studio's Candy Kisses collection. Paper Rose Studio never disappoints with their fun collections, and I really enjoyed using their Candy Kisses collection. I have the 6x6 paper, but it's also available in the 12x12 size. There are two paper pads that go with the Candy Kisses collection. There's the original Candy Kisses and also Candy Kisses Basics. You can use them separately or you can mix and match them together, and that's what I'll be doing in this video. Both of the paper collections include 18 double-sided pattern papers, 3 each of 12 designs. I'm showing you the Candy Kisses collection first. Lots of beautiful florals. Some of the papers have cut-apart images and sentiments. I'll flip over the paper so you can see the designs on the opposite side. I love having 3 each of all of the papers. That way you don't have to choose which side is your favorite. The original Candy Kisses collection does have more busier designs, but if you bring in the Candy Kisses Basics, there are lots of muted designs that'll help tone down those busier patterns. Now I'll flip through the Candy Kisses Basics collection. There are some busier patterns, and some of them are similar to the patterns in the original Candy Kisses, just on a smaller scale. We have some fun polka dots, diagonal stripes. There's a green design that has a distressed brick wall look to it. I really like the colors in this collection, perfect for masculine or feminine cards. In the Candy Kisses original paper collection, there are quite a few floral designs. But in the Candy Kisses Basics collection, there are only a few sheets with the floral patterns. To go along with the Candy Kisses collection, there are 3 die-cut packs and 1 cut-apart pack. The first one I have is Candy Kisses Embossed die cuts. There are 4 A5 sheets, and all of the images simply pop out, so you don't have to do any fussy cutting. And since this is an embossed die cut pack, it has beautiful glossy accents on all of the images. I love Paper Rose's embossed die cuts. The colors in this pack are so beautiful, lots of nice vibrant reds mixed with pink. The next pack is another embossed die cut pack. This one's called Candy Treats. It also includes 4 A5 sheets, and these images also pop out. After I pop out all the images, I use a pair of scissors and trim off the small white tab. This pack includes lots of yummy treat images. And I love how the images are decorated with the beautiful florals. There's one more embossed die cut pack. This one's called Candy Florals. Lots of beautiful floral images. There's some shops and also windows. It includes more of the red and pink colors, and all of the images work perfectly with the Candy Kisses paper pads. The last set I have is called Candy Florals Cut-Aparts. This pack includes 18 single-sided sheets. There's 6 designs, 3 each. For this pack, there is no embossed design, and you also need to fussy cut them out. Each sheet has 6 different images, and I think the images are easy enough to fussy cut. Just depends on how close to the image you like to cut. The cardstock in the cut-apart pack is much heavier weight than the cardstock in the die-cut pack. The cut-aparts, it's 300 GSM. And the embossed die cuts are 200 GSM. So if you like to have that nice sturdy cardstock, you may prefer the cut-apart pack. If you are interested in any items from the Candy Kisses collection, I do have links in the description box below. So let's go ahead and get started with card design number 1. I selected 2 pattern papers. I have a fun pink van design and also a reddish pink polka dot. I cut the two pieces at an angle, and I'll layer them on some red cardstock. I do have a slight gap between the two pattern paper pieces, but no worries, I'm adding a strip of red cardstock, and that'll cover that gap right up. I did put some double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the red strip, and since I cut that piece longer than my card, after I adhere the strip down, I'll flip over my card front, use my scissors, and trim off the extra. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. I have the rest of my pieces for my card in one of Scrapbook.com's stack and sort trays. I'm adding a stitched oval die cut, and I did cut this out from white shimmer cardstock. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it on the right side of the card. Now I'll add one of the embossed die cut images, and I did pop it up with foam dimension. For a sentiment, I'll be adding the word hello, and this is from one of Paper Rose's sentiment cut apart sheets. I have big sentiments 1.0, all occasions, and also black and white. I love using their sentiment sheets. They include a nice variety of sentiments, and if you don't feel like stamping, this is a great solution. I'll tuck the right side of the hello sentiment underneath the die cut image. Before adhering it down, I did put a scrap piece of cardstock on the left side of the sentiment. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere it in place. For a final finishing touch, I'm using a scrap piece of red cardstock. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom. Then I'll cut the right side in slightly at an angle, flip it over, and do the same thing on the other side. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the banner in the upper left-hand corner. Then using the leftover scrap piece of pattern paper, I'll adhere it on the inside of the card just for a little extra detail. Since I used two pieces of pattern paper for the first card, I decided to use the leftover pieces to make a second card. Then using the same card design and two more pattern papers, I made two more cards. Now moving on to card design number 2. I will be using a card sketch for inspiration. This is Cards TV sketch number 56. And if you are interested in any of the sketches I use in this video, I share all of that information on my coordinating blog post. The link is in the description box below, or you can simply head over to KristieMarcotte.com. I selected 3 pattern papers for this card. I have a green diagonal stripe paper for the background. The smaller panel has a bunch of tiny tags with flowers and ribbons. I'm layering both of them on some green cardstock. And for my cardstock layers, I generally add an additional 1/8 of an inch. If you prefer a wider border, I would suggest adding 1/4 of an inch. I'll put ATG tape on the back, add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. For the narrow strip at the bottom of the card, I'm using the reddish pink polka dot paper. I did put a small scrap piece of cardstock on the right side where it goes off of the other pattern paper piece, and that'll help it stay at the same level. On the card sketch, there's a small rectangle indicated for the lower left-hand corner. I'll be adding one of the embossed die cut pieces. I have a stack of books with lovely flowers sitting on top. Before adhering the die cut, I'll first add the sentiment, Happy Birthday. And this is another sentiment cut apart from one of the 3 sentiment sheets that I showed earlier. After adding the embossed die cut piece on the left side, I'll add a strip of the extra pattern paper on the inside of the card. Using a small piece of green cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner on the tag pattern paper. And I'll adhere the banner in place using Barely Art Glue. For embellishments, I'm using Paper Rose's Shaker Mix. These are clear crystals. They come in the little zippered bag, but I put mine in a small plastic container. I find it easier to use them. I'll add 3 small crystals in the upper right-hand corner and 2 underneath the books and sentiment, more on the left side. There are 4 different sizes of crystals in this mix. I'm using 3 different sizes for this card. The crystals don't have adhesive on the back, so I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue, pick up the crystals using an embellishment wand, then press them in place. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this sketch. 2 of the cards have the green stripe background, and the other 2 cards have a red and white stripe background. And I used different die cut images and sentiments for all 4 cards. Now moving on to card design number 3, and this is a very simple card design. Several of the pattern papers in the collection have beautiful scenes, and since they fill most of the 6x6 paper, it's hard to decide where to cut them, so I like to feature them as much as possible on a card. I did cut down the paper to 5¼ inches by 4 inches. If you make larger cards, you wouldn't need to cut as much of the design. But since I mostly make A2 size cards, I did need to trim it down. I'll layer that piece on some red cardstock, and this red cardstock does have a pearlescent finish. It's made by Basil, and I believe it's called Luscious. At the top of the card, I did add a 5/8 inch strip of the pinkish red polka dot paper, and I adhered that down using some double-sided adhesive tape. Now I'll add the sentiment, "You're just too sweet," and this is one of the sentiment cut-aparts. I cut the left side at an angle just for some extra interest. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. The other card features the fun van and the sentiment, "Go confidently in the direction of your dreams." And I also added a small banner in the upper right-hand corner. For card design number 4, the card sketch is from Freshly Made Sketches. This is number 622. For the background of my card, I'm using more of that tag pattern paper. This design is included in the Candy Kisses and also the Candy Kisses Basics collection. In the Basics collection, the design is slightly smaller, and that's the one I used on the previous card. For the smaller panel, I selected the green brick pattern paper. I'll layer that piece on some white shimmer cardstock. Using a stitch scallop die, I'll add the scallop border at the bottom of this piece. Then I'll put glue on the back and adhere the brick pattern paper piece down. Next, I'll layer the background piece on some red cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now I'll add one of the embossed die cut images. Beautiful window with red flowers on the windowsill. I've already put foam dimension on the back. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the window at the top portion of the green pattern paper. I cut out the sentiment, "You are so very kind," and I'll adhere it underneath the window. And I did put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the sentiment. Then to finish off the card, I'll add more of the clear crystals. Put 2 in the upper left-hand corner and 3 on the right side around the window and sentiment. I recently refilled this container with the clear crystals from Paper Rose. I was almost out of my last bag, and I think that one lasted me almost 3 years. There really are a ton of crystals in this mix. With this container so full, it was hard for me to find the different sizes of crystals. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. For the first 2 cards, I used different embossed die cut pieces. For the second cards with the blue stripe background, I used some of the image cut aparts, so they don't have the embossed detail. For the last 2 cards, I decided to keep them nice and flat, so I didn't add any of the crystals. Instead, I used some small silver circle stickers. Now moving on to card design number 5, and this is my final card design. The card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 740. This is a great sketch if you have lots of narrow strips of pattern paper left over, or you could use cardstock as well. For the background, I'm using the reddish pink polka dot paper, and I'm adding 3 different pattern paper pieces. I have sort of the watercolor look of blue and green and a lovely floral design, and I'll feature that in the middle. When cutting down the strips, I did leave them the full 6 inches long. I'll put adhesive on the back, start with the strip on the very left, the green strip, adhere that one down, then I'll make sure the floral piece goes flush next to the green, and then I'll add the blue strip last. Now I'll flip over this panel, use my scissors to trim off the extra. That way the strips are nice and flush against the edge. I'll layer this piece on some red cardstock, put ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. On the card sketch, there are 2 narrow strips on the left side of the card. Thought those would be perfect for the sentiment. I selected 2 of the sentiment cut-aparts that go together. You're incredible. You are the reason I smiled today. And I did pop up both of them using foam dimension. The foam dimension is from Honeybee Stamps. It's their black foam strips. Now I'll add one of the embossed die cuts. It's a lovely chair with some beautiful flowers. And I also pop that up with foam dimension. I'll remove the release paper and adhere the chair above the longer sentiment. Using a scrap piece of red cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner. Then to finish off the card, I'll add more of the clear crystals from Paper Rose. I'll put 2 in the upper right-hand corner, putting one of them on the banner, and 3 in the lower left-hand corner. I'm searching around for a variety of crystal sizes. I'm putting the 2 smallest sizes in the upper right-hand corner. I'll first add a small drop of Barely Art glue, use an embellishment wand to pick up the crystals, then press them in place. And sometimes I'll use the metal tip of my embellishment wand to press down the crystals. I think it's designed for diamond painting, so it's perfect for pressing down those small crystals. So there is my finished card, and I did make 4 using this design. For the other 2 cards, the background paper has lots of teacups, and I added a large teacup embossed die cut image. This is a really fun card design, and it works perfectly for all those leftover pattern paper strips. Now here's another look at the 20 cards I made using Paper Rose Studios Candy Kisses collection. I used both the Candy Kisses and Candy Kisses basic 6x6 paper pads, along with an assortment of embossed die cuts and image cut-aparts. This is a beautiful collection. I love the variety of designs and colors. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. Paper Rose is located in Australia, and they do ship their products internationally, but you can also purchase their products here in the US, and I have links for both locations in the description box. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.